Okay, so this is going to be a couple of videos, maybe about 3 videos, about how to create a gallery in Adobe Flash. Now, what we're going to find actually as we create our galleries in Adobe Flash, and what I'm doing right now, I'm creating this gallery to then be brought in as an SWF file into an HTML CSS site. So we can begin with, we can start and we can make our stage the size we want. So I have this stage, it's 800 pixels across by 600 pixels high, and we can edit that. I set my background color to the background color of the site that I'm building, and this will be a gallery of artwork. So what we want to do as we create galleries in Flash, we want to load our images as the user requests, and what this will do is it will actually create a smaller file size, which makes for a quicker loading and all that good stuff. So what we want to do right now is we want to set it up so Flash will dynamically load images. Right. So what we're going to do is we can begin with our layout by creating a region of our layout where images will load. First thing I have done is I just created these 4 thumbnails. These thumbnails are 70 pixels by 70 pixels. And then I've set all of my images to be about the same, and you'll see that in a minute. All right, so what I want to do now is I have these 4 thumbnails. Now I want to create a region where when I click these images, my image will dynamically load. So here goes. I'm going to come on over to my tools and I'm going to just make a background for it. You know, you could bring in a graphic, you could bring in a frame and have all of your images appear within a frame. You could do a lot of different stuff. So I'm just going to take the rectangle primitive tool. I'm going to have a white fill and I'm going to just create an area here. Okay, now, if I wanted this to line up, I could actually take my rulers out, all that good stuff, and make sure that it's all lining up perfectly. Now, what I want to do, I have my sizes all set. I actually want to make this width and this height a specific size. I actually am going to make this width and this height 520 by 340. Okay, so my width is going to be 520, and my height I'm going to make 340. And you're going to see why that is in a minute. Again, I have all my size written down. Okay, so there we go. Okay, now the next thing I need to do is I'm going to dynamically load my images into this rectangle. Now, in order to do that, I need to actually use a component. Okay, and basically what a component is, it is a movie clip that has additional functionality. So first thing I need to do is I need to take this rectangle I just created and turn it into a movie clip. So I'm going to come to modify, convert to symbol, and I am going to make this a movie clip. And I'm going to name this my painting backgrounds, okay? Because this is where it will be. It will be right behind all this good stuff. So I hit OK. Now, next thing I want to do is I want to double click so I am within my painting background, and I can tell that that's where I am by when I come up and I look at the timeline of my stage up in here where I actually am. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come to Window, and I'm going to open up my components. And what you're going to find as we open up our components, there's a lot of different things in here. And again, components are different ways that we can add more functionality to our movie clips. And what I want to do is I want to add a UI loader. So I'm going to double click that and it should appear on my stage, and there it is. All right, so this UI loader is where my images will load into. But what I want to do right now is I actually want to make it the exact size of my images. And I know my images, I've had them all planned out. The 4 images that I have to load right here will be 500 pixels by 320 pixels. So I'm going to come to Free Transform, and I'll come on over to my Properties panel, and I'll make my height 500, and my width, my height, I'm sorry, will be 320. Okay, so here goes. So now I can take this and I can put it, where I want it to be. I can eyeball it up. Okay, now I want to say my source. All I want to do right now is load my first image. So what is my source? Well, if I come right into here, this is the file that I'm working on. I'm working on gallery.fla, and all of these images are within this folder, and they're in a folder titled painting underscore gallery. The painting I want to load first is painting1.jpg. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this back up, and I'm going to come right to here. I'm going to write painting underscore gallery / painting 1.jpg. Now if you have anything misspelled, it doesn't work. So if it doesn't work, go back and double check. I tend to always find myself with some little mistake. All right, so there we go. We are ready to get working. We have our first image loaded. It's an SWF file, and we can see though now the next thing in video 2 and video 3, we're going to look at adding functionality to our buttons and having these images dynamically load. Thanks for listening. Check video 2 for the next step in creating a gallery in Flash. Okay, so this is the second video in how to create a gallery in Adobe Flash. And what I've done here is I have these 4 thumbnails laid out. I have the place where my images are going to load when I click on them. Now, all 4 of these images, the thumbnails are all 70 pixels by 70 pixels. Then the images that are going to load are about the same size too. So what I want to do here is to begin is I have all of these thumbnails in layer 1. So what I want to do is I'm going to make my buttons in layer 2. And my buttons will be these 4 thumbs right here that I'm going to add a little bit of interactivity to in this video. So let's begin. We have the buttons layer created. I'm going to come on over, I'm going to grab my rectangle tool, and I have a color gray set on it so I can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to click and I'm going to draw a rectangular button over top of this. Now, I can come on into my, actually I'm going to select this. I'm going to come back to my tools, my black arrow, I'm going to select. If I come into my properties, I can see that it's exactly 70 pixels by 70 pixels. That's exactly what I want. All right, now what I want to do is I'm going to take this shape I just created, I'm going to convert it to a button. So I'm going to say modify, convert to symbol, and I want to make this a button. And I'll just call this thumbs. This is for all of the thumbnails. I'm going to hit OK. Okay, now what I want to do next is add a little bit, well actually, let's actually add some interactivity to this button. So in order to do that, we double click into our button, and as I look up on my timeline up here, I can see there's my main timeline. But again, as I double click, now I am inside the button ready to add interactivity. Now the first thing that I want is I want this button to be a hotspot. And what I mean by that is I want it to be an area over top of this image that will add interactivity to this image. So what I really want is I want that image to appear on its own. So I want to actually have a blank keyframe to start. And an invisible button, that's exactly the word, and not a blank keyframe, an invisible button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my up keyframe on my button, I'm going to drag it over and drop it in the over. Now what I've done is I have my first up movement. As the button appears on the screen, it will be the image, and that's what I want. So I'm going to come to over, and then I'm going to come to down, and I can say insert keyframe, and let's see if let's actually see as I come to over and I come back to my properties, well, we can come over here and we'll see what we want to do. If we click onto this, we can come back into our properties panel and we can add, actually let's leave this as it is and see what we have. So we can come to command. Let's actually test it and see. But actually a really easy way to test your buttons is come to control and hit enable simple buttons. And what that does, I have to come back into scene 1. Okay, that's what my problem is. What that does is then when I click over, I can see, okay, this is what it is looking like. Okay, excellent. All right, so let's actually, we're in scene 1. Now I'm going to turn back off enable simple buttons. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off. What we can see is whenever we have an invisible button, it will be this teal color, and that's just a sign when we're working in Flash that we have an invisible button. Okay, now if I click onto this too, I can actually change things around a little bit. I can come, and this is what I want to do. I'm going to come into my display, and I'm going to just add an overlay to that. And if you're familiar with some of these blends, probably if you've worked in Photoshop, you probably are. So let's enable our simple buttons and see what that looks like. So you can see as I come over top of this, it has a little bit, I can tell that I'm hovering over, the color changes a little bit. Okay, actually let's come on in, back on into our button and change things around a little bit more. Up, I need to, in order to do that, I need to turn off enable simple buttons. So sometimes you wonder, why do I even have it on? All right, so we'll double click into the button, and then if I come on into the over, I have that color. Come to this one, we'll change this color here. We come to tools. Okay. All right, so the over, the up, the over, and the down. Okay. All right, so we'll control. Let's actually test our movie. So we can come to control, test movie, test. Okay, now I might even want to change that gray color so it has more of, with the overlay in is based on what is the color that's there. So I'm going to go back in here, and for this color, I have this color right here, this color, I'm going to change the color here. White might be a little bit too much. Let's go for that lighter color. All right, and let's try it one more time. Sometimes you just got to get the perfect color. Come to test. All right, I like that one much better. Okay, so what I want to do now is I'm just going to take what I did in this button and I am just going to duplicate it. So I can click this, I can come to edit, copy, edit, paste. Take this guy, move this guy over here, and then I can shift click these two, edit, copy, edit, paste in place. We can take these guys, these two buttons, we can move them down. All right, we'll test it one more time. Test movie, test. Okay, we can see that we've created these hot spots with these buttons. Now, the next thing that we want to do now is make our buttons function. So how can we make, as we click these buttons, we want it to go, this image to change in here. I don't even have the right numbers here, so make sure that you know what your right numbers are. Okay, first thing we need to do is we need to make sure everything's named. So we're going to click on this one, back to layer 1. I'm going to click on this image right here, and I'm going to come into my properties panel, and I want to give this a name. And I'm going to name this painting background. We need to make sure that we know what it is named. Now, this is actually a movie clip. Now we're going to double click into the movie clip, and let's actually name the instance. Here we have the UI loader, and we can see we have the component as the UI loader. Now let's name this one main, what should we say, main loader. Okay, all right, so there we have it. Okay, so that's what we named this one, main loader. Now what we want to do is we want to come back into scene 1, and we want to add our interactivity. So what we want to do, we're going to click on this first one. Oh, before we go any further though, we need to actually name the different buttons we created so we can add our interactivity. So I'm going to name this one Thumb 1. Okay, excellent. So I have this one selected, and now what I need to do next is add the action scripts. And this is going to be a mouse event, and what we want to happen is when someone clicks on this, we want this image to be loaded. Okay, so we need to get ready to put some action script in. So before we do that, our best practice is we always want to have a separate layer for our action script. So we create a new layer, and we're going to name this layer action for our action script. And if we want to, we can, right? We can just insert a keyframe. Okay, I'm going to come back to this one and say, well, why are you inserting a keyframe? There's nothing here, but that's okay. I'm going to come to Window, Actions. Just for the heck of it, I'll add a stop. Okay, and I go to my next line, and I am ready to start. I hold on to thumb 1. Now, if you are working in CS4, you'll have to write the code out here, but we can get it very quickly, and I'll go over what the code is that will have to be written in to your actions here, but we can get it very quickly right through our code snippets. So we come to code snippets, and this is an event handler. It's a mouse click event. All right, so here is our code, and we can see this comment, and it's saying thumb 1. We need an event, add event listener. We have a mouse event click, and the function is going to be the mouse event again. And then this is what we want to happen when this, now we want to say, okay, this is what we want you to do when this happens. I'm going to say, we're going to come into painting, background, right? And that's what we just named our, movie clip that, right? And then when we went into the interactivity of the movie clip, we had main loader, okay? And then we want to add our next piece. Let me just double check it. Okay, so we want painting background dot main loader, period, and then we go to the source. And our source equals, and I'm just going to, now we're going to put in the root to that image. And I'm going to just double check because I actually kind of forget where my image is. Let's take a look here. It's in the painting gallery folder, and the first image that I had there upon clicking should be painting 4. Okay, so probably you want to make sure that yours are all working okay. So I'm going to go to painting underscore gallery folder painting 4.jpg. All right, so there we have it. Okay, let's try one more and then we'll test it. All right, the next thing I want to do is come to my next image. I'm going to name this one. This is going to be thumb 2. Okay. Now, again, if I was didn't have CS4, if I was working in CS4, I'd have to write this all in under my next actions. I'm going to come back to code snippets. I'm going to do double click for a mouse click event. Okay. And what's happening here is I can see, and I have all of these different, let me get rid of this comment. Sometimes the comments that Flash puts in takes up a lot of space. All right, so the action script that I want, this can go directly underneath the command, the action script for thumb 1. Now, for thumb 2, again, this is an add event listener. This is a mouse event. The mouse event is a click. Okay, this is saying this is what's going to happen. And then what we want to happen when this happens is we want it to go and find this image. So what I want to do, what I can do right now is actually just take and copy these 2 lines of code. Now again, yours may be different. This all depends on how you name it. So let's see, line 5, line 6. Okay, I don't know why. Sometimes it doesn't let me copy it. So I'm just going to type it in, painting background dot main loader dot source equals painting underscore gallery slash painting. And I should double check because I should have written it all down what painting number that is. If I come, that for me is painting 3. So I come on back into here, painting 3.jpg. All right, let's test it and see if it works. Dun, 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 dun. So we come to Control, Test Movie, Test. Voila. It's that easy. All right. So we have the first two done. And I'll go through the steps for doing the third one and the fourth one so you can see what it is. So the third one is right here. And the third one, the first one is painting 1. And I believe this one's painting 2. So we'll just give it a shot and see what happens. All right, so I'm going to name this. But you can see as I'm working how confusing this can get if you don't keep all your names straight, which I think all of us don't always do. So I'm going to go to my code snippets. Again, this is a mouse click event. I double click and I can come on into here and I'm going to select that, get rid of the comments because they end up taking up a lot of room. I'm going to come on down to here. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that one. And I want to say through my action script that someone has just clicked this button. Now I want this to go and open up this image inside of, all right, so we'll go painting background, period, main loader, double check, always double checking, writing things down, double checking, dot, source equals return. We have a string here, painting underscore gallery, painting 2.jpg, end. All right, we'll try our last one. Again, we come into here. This instance needs to be named. We have thumb 4. We have this one selected. Again, I'm going to add this. This is a mouse click event. We double click. There we have it, a mouse click event. We come on right up to here. I'm going to delete this comment. Now what's great about the comments that Flash gives you is it actually gives you a lot of info about how to proceed. Now I'm going to come on into here and tell it the source painting background dot main loader dot source equals return painting underscore painting underscore gallery backslash painting, and I'm forgetting what my numbers are. So you got to keep it all straight. Painting 2, 3, 4. This one would be painting 1 dot jpg. All right, so what you can see that so much of this really is just keeping yourself organized too. Now what happens if there's something that's spelled incorrectly, the whole thing won't work. Okay, if there's one word off or something's not right, most times it doesn't work. And I have found as I work that one of the biggest mistakes I make is a word misspelled. So if it doesn't work, go back in, double check. What's great about the compiler errors in Flash is it pretty much will tell you exactly what line of the action script where your problem is. And that is my second video on creating a gallery in Adobe Flash. Thanks so much.